welcome to a special edition of the Morning Cup of Joe. As I wind down my time here at the Community Foundation, I thought I'd take a moment to just look back at the nearly 85 episodes that we've done in the Morning Cup of Joe. May just pull out a few ideas or thoughts or moments I thought are a little bit timeless, strategies I think that are worth hanging on to, and maybe some ideas for the future. I started this episode or this series because I wanted to try to relate some of the more complex things about community foundations to some real world analogies so that our staff and volunteer board members across the state could pick up on them, potentially adopt a few new ideas and help create a positive impact across the state of Iowa. So without further ado, here's 5 ideas that stuck with me that I hope stick with you. So the first idea from episode 7, it's not about the X's and O's, but the Jimmies and Joes. I brought this analogy in from my college football coach. He talked a lot about you can have the best playbook, the best strategy, the best processes in place, but unless you have the right people on the team, from the coaches to the players to the support staff, you just won't have the success that you want to. And I would say throughout my tenure, when our affiliate community foundations are at their best is when they've been able to get the right people on the bus in the right seats, moving things forward. Now, throughout this, I may say some things that are taboo or sacred cows, but hey, I'm a short timer, so I can say that. One thing I really think that we've had to wrestle with over the years is when this all got started with our affiliate community foundations, a lot of us were choosing advisory board members based on where they were geographically throughout the county, some equal representation from our communities. And why I think that should be one perspective in which we look at when we're looking to recruit new board members to our community foundation. I think this should be just that, just one perspective, one trait we're looking for in terms of advisory board members. But there's other skill sets, perspectives that must be evaluated before we invite someone on to the advisory board. What do they do professionally? What are they good at? Who are the people that they know? What gets them fired up at the end of the day? These things are just as important, and I would argue even more important than them being from a specific community. I have seen advisory board members in practice when they're looking at different grant applications, put aside their bias maybe for their specific community and evaluate grants based on their credence and what they can do to move the region forward. So I'm not very concerned about having certain people from certain communities and maybe some communities getting less money because they don't have as much representation. I think that when you get good people with good intent on the board, those things figure themselves out. What's more important is getting the right skill sets, the right passion, the right energy on your advisory board. The other piece of that is not every advisory board member is the same. They have different likes and interests and passion areas. And so we shouldn't treat everyone cookie cutter, assuming they can do the same role across the board. Figure out what your advisory board members like to do and let them lean into that area. Maybe you have folks that aren't very comfortable being out in the public talking about the community foundation. Great. They can help administer some of the back office functions like the grant process, or maybe they're really good with social media and they love to drive your social media campaign. Put them to work there. Maybe you have people that don't want to talk about money, but they love to host people at their home for wine and cheese or coffee. Awesome. Bring someone in from the community foundation that can talk about the organization, the different giving opportunities. Give that person an opportunity to host people at their house, something that they like to do. We see the most engagement out of advisory board members when they're not treated all the same, but we let them lean into things that they like to do, areas that they can get passionate about. So get to know your advisory board members. So that's the first idea. It's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes. So focus getting the right people part of your board, the right staff in place. And then when you start to choose what strategies you want to attack, you're 75% of the way there because you got people that can make it happen. Episode 2, Tidal Wave grant making. This is actually when I brought Christy Nels, our president, into the episode 4. And I think tidal wave grant making is here to stay. Now, some of you might admit, especially early on, we gave a lot of grants to buy flowers for Main Street, put benches in parks. We have AEDs in a lot of buildings across the state, and these are all fine projects. But I would really argue and encourage you to think about where can your dollars have the most catalytic impact in your community. I think that in most of our communities, we can go find donors or a group of donors that can pool money together to get $1,000, $2,000 projects done. But in a lot of our communities, we're missing those donors that are willing or able to write $10, $15, $25,000 gifts to a certain project. That's exactly where your community foundation can make a difference. We need to be thinking about bigger investments in our community if we're going to help propel some of these projects forward. That'll lead to positive economic and community development. So it's not always about the size of the gifts. I think that we have to be rid of these grant maximums and really consider where can our dollars get the most leverage. It's not about the number of projects, it's about the impact that we can have. Now, maybe just a couple pointers that I've seen work well. Many community foundations now are looking at their spendable balance on their endowment, which for most folks is around $35,000 to $50,000. That is your tidal wave grant making pool. Those monies that you get into your pass-through fund, those can go to all the different projects that you want to fund across the county, but you're looking for a high impact project with that endowment spendable. You're looking at that money differently. We've also seen, and this is a picture of Briggs Woods, and just south of Webster City. It's a beautiful conference center right off Highway 20. It's really a big time project for that community as they look to bring more visitors into the area to help support small businesses. The local community foundation there wanted to really help spur this campaign forward. And so they made a 3-year commitment, $50,000 each year, if the community would match their dollar 2 to 1. So they committed $150,000 to this project, and $300,000 was given because of that matching component. The people running the campaign were ecstatic because they could go out to donors of different sizes and tell them, today we can double your contribution because of the match provided by our local community foundation. Get creative in how you can use your dollars to pool in other resources in your community. We have to be the ones that create a tidal wave across the state of Iowa. Here is idea number 3, episode 72. And this is one of my favorite analogies to talk about. You know, when I drive into downtown from our home in Grimes, a lot of the time you hear the same radio advertisements day in, day out. And one of my favorites is the Lebanon Mattress Company out of Ames. They're always advertising on the radio. And for the longest time, I was like, hey guys, I buy a mattress once in 10 years. Why spend so much time trying to market to me? Well, that's because when I need a mattress, the first people I think about is Lebanon Mattress Company in Ames. That's the same thing for our community foundations. They may not need to give a gift to the community foundation each and every single year, but there are times in people's lives, whether they're selling a business, real estate, doing estate planning, do tax planning, that we have a very unique service we can provide them to help them get back to causes that they care about. But when those milestone moments happen, it cannot be the first time they've heard of us. We have to be consistently telling our message to the community so that they know when that moment happens, your community foundation is a resource for them. This here's a picture of our friends in Hardin County when they found out that they received a substantial gift, nearly $5 million to an unrestricted fund for their community. They were ecstatic. It came from the Schiller sisters, Evelyn and Eleanor. They were 2 sisters that lived together. You wouldn't know they had much to give. They never had their own children, and so they left their inheritance, most of their net worth, to their community. And when they were cleaning out the sisters' home, one of the things they found was an envelope full of all the brochures, flyers, and newspaper articles that the sisters had seen about the foundation throughout the years. These sisters have been watching the local foundation for years. They've been watching the impact they've made with grant making. They've been watching the different stories of donors that gave back to causes they cared about through the foundation. They were very familiar. We just didn't know about it. And so my encouragement to you is go tell your story now, tell it often, because people are watching. but we cannot lay on our laurels of being the best kept secret in town, because that does not drive additional resources to your foundation, which then you can use to make additional impact in your community. So let's start selling more mattresses. Idea number 4, one of the more recent ones, episode 80. Something I feel very strongly about is during the pandemic, I think a lot of us began to maybe more appreciate the place in which we live, that our place and our surroundings or our neighbors mean something to us, because we could be somewhere else right now if we wanted to. And so who is going to carry that rally cry in your community that this place matters more than your local community foundation? You can do that through the way that you grant into the community. You can do that in the way that you encourage donors to give back to keep resources into your community. You can do that by using your voice to lift up important community initiatives that move your community forward. You have to be the champion for your place. Something that we've seen more community foundations take up on is investing in youth and teaching them the importance of philanthropy. And in my opinion, the Okoboji Foundation is one of the best at doing this through their youth and philanthropy program. These young students from high schools across the county raise nearly $80,000 each year to do their own grant making to projects that matter to them and their community. They are learning how to go out and talk to their neighbors and their friends about investing alongside of them into things that matter the most, and then making those critical decisions based on more opportunities and dollars available. How do we make the best investment back into our community? They've already seen throughout the 10 plus years they've done this program, some alumni from those youth and philanthropy groups come back and become community leaders. Youth and philanthropy programs, community leadership programs, getting involved on local boards, you have to begin investing in your place, because you're one of the biggest champions for it. In my last idea, episode 83, Tam comes back here. This is her and I golfing up in Eldora one time, but build your network. And Tam and a lot of our staff and contractors do a great job at this. I become to realize that one of the biggest benefits that we offer our affiliate partners across the state is each other. You are part of a network of 46 county and community foundations working in Iowa to promote philanthropy. Take that as an asset. There are communities just like yours trying to take on the same challenges and opportunities. Get to know how they're solving for their problems. Get to know what resources they're using to move forward. Use our team to make those connections. You're not in this work alone. You're in this work together. So build your network. And actually, my final idea, a little bit of a bonus, episode 65 was something that Rebecca and I did that was probably on the more dangerous side when it comes to Morning Cup of Joe's, but answering some questions from the field as we drove down Highway 69 to Winterset. And I just want you to know that I've had a tremendous amount of fun being part of this work at the Community Foundation for the last 10 years. Rebecca has been an outstanding partner in this work. I'm so excited to see what she does next. But going back to my college football coach, he always told me, you have to enjoy the process. You have to find fun in what you're doing. And so I hope all of you take time to have fun being part of this movement of place-based philanthropy across the state. I hope that you take time to celebrate the successes that you have. And when you're in those challenging moments, you appreciate the process that you're going through, because your work matters and what you do as a community foundation matters for your community. So there you have it, 5 plus 1 bonus idea from the best of the Morning Cup of Joe's. Best of luck in your future work, and always know you have an advocate in me, and I'm happy to help.